Hello, dear ones. Today, I'd really like to talk to you about not just the people who have our back or the people who have our front, but the people who have our sides. That is, our sense of interconnectedness to all of being and non being. The, the peripheral vision sometimes is the hardest for us in terms of our awareness of who's around us, who's part of our community. It can be easy to see who's in opposition across from us. And sometimes we can lean back and we know who's behind us and has our support. And sometimes it's really difficult to be aware of and awake to our sense of interconnectedness to the whole. That is a challenge in these times. When we don't nurture and foster that sense of interconnectedness, then we're not taking care of one another. We shirk our responsibility to love our neighbors as ourselves, understanding that our neighbors is a whole world. Our trees are our neighbors, the birds are our neighbors, the fish are our neighbors, the plants and animal life, the fungal life, it's all our neighbors. And if we don't take care of one another, then the world suffers deeply. And you can see some of that suffering through the spread of pandemic as we don't treat one another necessarily with the kindness and graciousness that each of us deserves and needs. And where long-standing inequities have come to the surface again, for good reason, so that we can address them. So that we can remember that we too are in this network of mutuality. And whether we pay good attention, whether we nurture that network with love and compassion and generosity and really deep attentiveness to what's going on with one another, or whether we don't, whether we nurture that relationship with hate or disdain or dismissal or looking down on people or not viewing others as worthy enough to even be called people. We still have a relationship. Sometimes we say, especially in English, we don't have a relationship with that person because what we mean is we don't have a positive relationship with that person. We might have what some might call a neutral relationship or a thin relationship, a distant relationship. And as relationships get closer to us in proximity, chances are better that we have more emotional investment in those relationships and more care for one another. And until you're right up against the folks who really are on either side of your shoulders and who also can be people you lean back into, places you lean back into, spots that you feel are home, beings that you're with and non-beings that you're with, that make you feel supported. So the challenge, because humanity hasn't particularly evolved well to be able to attend to what it can't sense without really directing the senses and attention to other ways that we can sense that, is to spend some time thinking each day. Perhaps you're meditating, perhaps you're praying, perhaps you're taking the time to write notes to the larger community or to do some acts for justice for this larger connection. Perhaps you're doing all of those things and also reaching out to make new friends, that is, thicken the relationship, to love and care for a new place, or even the place where you've been but you've taken for granted, to thicken that relationship, to intensify it and deepen it. Those are the ways that we can find to support our network, our interdependence. And if we don't, then violence erupts. Then it's easy to dismiss others. Then it's easy to go ahead and violate a place or people or other beings. So if we're really going to practice justice, if we're really going to practice love, and if we are going to attend to the commandment to love our neighbors as ourselves, and that means the entire world, then we need to think about and attend to these thinner relationships. These are the relationships that allow us to perhaps have electricity or clean water or roads. Maybe the relationships that put food on the table eventually, or that support educational processes, or even write textbooks, and you don't know the textbooks writers. The other aspect to remember about this is that just as you don't know the millions of people's lives that you touch and you've been touched by, you don't know how much you touch others, how much your life supports those of others. There may be a closer network that you're aware of. You can also remember that other people are thinking about you in the same way that you're thinking about them, which is a very distant relationship, and maybe one that's easier to dismiss unless we take the time and the heart and the attention to really attend deeply and better to one another, to practice compassion, and to put love into action by working for equity and inclusion and justice in this diverse and amazing and wonderful world. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you go forward to practice interdependence and your greater awareness of that wonderful mystery of being. Thank you.